Welcome to my channel. I'm Sissy, life coach and motivational speaker, and my channel is about spirituality, self-awareness, self-development, the human condition. So, we live in a world of duality. We will live in a world of good and bad. We live in a world of evil and good, or evil and divine, or evil and righteous, so you may call it, right? So today's topic, we're speaking about Satan. Okay, what is Satan? Is Satan a real supernatural being? Where does Satan come from? And is Satan an egregore? An egregore, what is an egregore? An egregore is a thought form, a powerful thought form, because it has collective attention to it. It has collective power exerted towards that idea, that concept, or that being, right? A thought form, an egregore. Is Satan an egregore? So, Satan is the adversary of God. Satan is the opponent of God, according to the Christian literature, right? So, in a world of duality that we live in now, you have to have the opposite of everything. Now we have the opposite of God, which is the devil or Satan. God is good, God is love. Satan is the opposite, the devil's the opposite, right? It's all darkness, it's away from love, it's about hate, it's about selfishness, about self-centeredness. So, with all these ideas coming to fore, right? A lot of people believe that Satan is a supernatural being, especially if they had an influence of Christianity in their life at any time, right? Because Christianity teaches us that Satan is a supernatural being, a real being, a being with horns, and a scary being holding a fork and stuff like that, right? So the concept of Satan in Christianity is what drives the whole concept of fear. So as I said, a lot of people don't see it as an egregore. He's understood in Christianity as a spiritual supernatural being, a fallen angel who rebelled against God. Right, so let's continue. According to traditional Christian theology, God created angels in spiritual beings, as spiritual beings, right? God created angels as spiritual beings. Some of these angels rebelled, right, against God, according to how we got the so-called Satan and the fallen angels. Satan became the leader of these fallen angels, or the rebellion of these angels. Satan and the fallen angels were cast out of heaven. They were discommunicated, they were rejected, right? They lost their home in heaven. Satan is viewed as the adversary, right? The tempter, the deceiver, then the equal opposite of God. Okay? However, if you look at it in a non-Christian or religious manner, Satan is just the opposite of God. Satan is not goodness. Satan is hate. It is separation from the light. And we see God as the light. So Satan, being the adversary, being the opponent, the opposite of what divine God is, according to the Christian way of looking at things. In this view, Satan is an actual personal intelligence, not merely a symbol or a collective thought form. In Christianity, as I said, in Christianity, they don't see Satan or the devil as an egregore, a thought form. No, they see it as a personal intelligence, not merely a symbol or a collective thought form. Okay? Now, who is Lucifer? It's more interesting. For many, many, many years, we've been told that Lucifer and the devil are the one and the same, which is not true. The name Lucifer is more complicated. The word Lucifer originally means light bearer, morning star in Latin. Remember that at that time, there was the Hebrew language, the old Hebrew language, and it was Latin spoken by the Romans and the Greeks at that time. Okay, so the words that we know now in English are originating from these old languages, and like Latin with a mixture of little bit of French and a little bit of Arabic language as well. So let's continue. The word Lucifer originally means the light bearer or the morning star. Okay, in Latin. It appears in a passage about the king of Babylon in the Bible, specifically in the book of Isaiah 14:12, verse 12, apparently. So it's chapter 14, verse 12. Over time, many Christians interpreted this message as referring as a symbolic to Satan's fall from heaven. As a result, in much Christian traditions, Lucifer became identified with Satan after the fall, apparently, right? So some theologians argue that Isaiah passage was never originally about Satan at all. You see, now there's no agreement in the whole academic community in terms of theology regards to this concept. So you, as a person who's learning these things, you've got to make up your own mind and get your own understanding, because even the theologists themselves who are studying these things are not agreeing to most of these things that they are actually studying. Okay, more biblical scholars often distinguish between the original text and the later Christians' interpretations. Remember, there's original text and there's later Christian interpretations. As I always say, that the Bible we read now in 2026 in the modern times has been changed from the original text a while ago. Okay, then as the Christian church has evolved, it has been changing in time. All right, so in other words, the original text or the meanings of those texts would have been lost. Okay, so as the life changes and people change, they get new insights and they see different messages within the same text that were there from the original text. So Lucifer and Satan are often treated as the same thing in regard to the traditional Christians. Okay, they say that Lucifer and Lucifer and Satan are the same being with the same intentions and everything. Okay, however, there are a lot of books that explain more about what is Lucifer. Okay, if you go further than just reading the Christian Bible, but then again, most Christian people will not question what they've been taught because they're afraid of what they will find out, because they have these questions in the back of their mind, but they're afraid of going more deeper. It's like you going into your bloodline, trying to understand the tree of your bloodline, okay? So there's certain things that you're going to find out there that they're going to go against your own understanding and teachings of what is true to you. So people are afraid of getting their belief systems challenged because people identify to or with their belief systems, identify, they mesh themselves to these ideologies. I am Christian, I am born again, I am this, I am a Muslim, and things like that. We identify to these things that we don't even kind of question them, because that will actually challenge the status quo of what we think we are. You understand? Everybody wants to feel somehow special. I am Muslim, special people following the right path. I am Christian, special person, people following the only right path. So everybody is saying they're all following the right path, but they're not studying their path. They're not studying the history of what they believe in. They're not studying it because they're afraid of being encountered with things they're gonna question and go against everything that they were taught, things that hold very dear to their heart. That's a sad part of the human condition. Hi, sweetie pie. Hi, official. To me, welcome to my live. Hope you're doing well, my sweetie pies. On the Sunday, happy Sunday, by the way. And if you have not as yet, go ahead and follow and subscribe to my channel. And become a member of my community that I'm building. Right, I'm based in South Africa. Okay, if you're new here, if you are not new here, you've been here to my channel before. Welcome and thank you for joining once again. And yeah, if you're new, do what you need to do. If you feel free to do so, subscribe to my channel, okay? So let's continue here with this concept of Satan. Now, who is Satan to you personally? Not what the Bible is telling you, not what your pastor is telling you. Who is Satan, or what is Satan to you? You understand? These are the things that you need to ask yourself, even regards to who is God to you, because every single person is having their own worldview, and we all should be seeing these concepts and believing them in different ways, whatever aligns to you at any time in your life. Okay, now let's talk about the fallen angels concept. This is very big in Christianity. The fallen angels. In Christian belief, angels were created good. In Christian belief, that all angels are all created good. Some chose rebellion. Now, remember, rebellion means that you're going against everything that you were taught. Now, a lot of people don't want to be rebellious, because rebellious is deemed to be not a good thing. It's deemed to be a bad thing. Right? So even if you don't believe in this thing that you're practicing, the concepts of being rebellious means that I'm asking questions. I am challenging my own teachings and my own belief. But because you're afraid of being called rebellious, because that seems to be somehow demonic or wrong or bad, those who followed Satan became fallen angels or demons, according to the stories, right? The narrative. Those who followed Satan, which is the adversary of God, Satan created by the church, basically, they needed to have a villain in the story, okay? So Satan is the villain, and God is the savior. He's the good one. You understand? Then you must have the opposite, because this is a place of polarity, good or bad, white or black. You understand? Up or down. So there has to be something. It could not be just be God. There has to be an adversary. There has to be an opposite, an opponent. You understand? A villain in the story. Passages often associated with this idea include parts of the book of Revelation and interpreted a book by Ezekiel and Isaiah, which is quite interesting, right? The concepts of details of rebellion are not subscribed or described in the single clear narrative in the Bible, apparently, okay? Much of the familiar story comes from the later Christian traditions, like theology and works such as Paradise Lost. It's other Christian books regards to this whole story about Satan. Now, remember that where does Christianity come from? From the Jewish teachings. Most of the Old Testament is taken from the Torah. The Torah and the Old Testament, the story, the narrative is the same. Okay? And then the only thing is, in the Torah, there's no new section that's added. Like, for example, in the Christian Bible, we have the New Testament. But the foundation of Christianity is coming from the Torah, the Jewish teachings. And so is Islam, coming from the Torah as well. You understand? So the same, two different concepts, one same ideology, come from the same type of ideology, but seeing this God differently and having different traditional rituals on each side. You understand? Seeing God the way they see God, like Islam is about Allah, and then Muhammad is there as the prophet, okay? And then in Christianity, we know about God, Jehovah, Yahweh, many other names, okay? And then there is Yeshua or Jesus, which is said to be the Son of God, right? So now that's the only differences, right? That's the differences, and you go more deep on how they handle each things like relationships, family life. And I've looked at books like Leviticus, I think speaks a lot about family life, human relation, how to treat your wife and all those things. I think it's in Leviticus in the Old Testament. And in the Torah doesn't have a new section, only Torah, basically, okay? And then the Islamic Quran just speaks about everything that was in the Torah, which are translated in your own Islamic way of seeing things. Now, remember, guys, every single person involved in writing these books and creating these branch-offs are all human. Every single person, from the Jewish aspect to the Christian aspect, okay? Now we have this guy called Yeshua, a person who lived in the first century, who taught his followers. He was helping him to understand life and understand their own belief and connection with God. Okay, but because he was so, how would I say, he was so revolutionary in the sense that he was questioning everything taught in the Torah, right, by in the Jewish Pharisees, everything they were teaching the people. Now remember that you might be somebody following a religion, but you're still very much human. You're still very much operating from ego. You're still very much having your own intentions. That's the scary part of this whole thing, okay? Now, yesterday I spoke about cults. Cults come from what? A group of people with a certain belief. There's always a leader or leaders who are in total control. Now, same as, for example, pastors in churches, stuff, popes and stuff, they're in total control. It's like a political system. They run the system or the so-called church, okay? And they have powerful directions and powerful things that are aligned to what their biblical books are saying, okay? And people don't question it, right? So if you look at it this way, I'm even thinking that, for example, in the first century, before Christianity became Christianity, when Yeshua walking around there, you know, as in a scene, teaching people and all the other stuff, enlightening, healing people, what they call it, physical, spiritual healing, touching of hands on people and healing them is what people can do now as well. But anyway, he did it and he helped a lot of people. Then he had this whole Messiah thing around him, and he's the Messiah and all that, right? Because when you do something different than other people in the mundane world, you gain these type of superpower powers around you. People think that you're somehow special. And I think that's what happened with Yeshua, because he had this ability to heal people by laying hands on them and speaking words of healing, and they could be healed. So then he became like a Messiah, a divine God and stuff like that, right? So that's what happens even in terms of, for example, cults as well. When people come together with one ideology, one belief, but the only difference here is, sweetie pies, in the cults, what makes a cult a cult? What makes any group, organization, a cult is not their belief, but more the practices within that group. The practices are very important. Practices of free talk, democracy. If you're not able to voice your opinion, you're not able to question your so-called leaders' words and what they say, you're not able to be your true, authentic, sovereign person. Now, in the cults, you have to follow the leader. There's a status quo, right? There's a status quo here. I mean, there's a lifestyle you must be living. In most cases, some of them they tell you mustn't eat meat, others you must eat meat, and some even they hunt and all those things. You know, it's just depending. Others say you mustn't have sexual relations, you must stay pure. Others say no, it's okay only in marriage and things like that. Others say no, it's free. You can sex is love, and you can express sex as showing love, like in the children of God, which is very extreme in what they were doing. And yet their belief was that God is love, and love is expressed through sex. So to them, sex is love. Then at that time, but now I believe they're now what Family International or something now, right? I'm not sure if they're still following the same things, but they say they don't follow the same extreme negative vibe about sexuality and stuff like that, right? Now, what I'm trying to say here is when a group of people come together, right, and they decide they're going to start this movement, all the people equally open or free to talk and question the leader's way and what the leader's saying. When that is not there, that means it becomes an occult. It becomes a cult, not an occult, but it becomes a cult group. Okay. Somebody's asking a question here. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from South Africa. I'm South African. Southern part of South Africa. I'm from South Africa. I'm South African. I'm doing well, my sweetie pie. Are you Muslim? I'm not Muslim, neither am I Christian. I come from a Christian background because I was born into a Christian environment. I did all the Christian things and everything, you know what I'm trying to say. And then later on in my life, I started questioning it because I want to understand there must be more to this world, to this whole thing of being alive and being here. Because I know there is other religions Why are the Christians saying that only people that follow Christ will go to heaven? So I was questioning all those things. I had a moment of an enlightenment because I understood that not every person can be condemned and by God because they have a different belief. Then I started learning more about the human condition and learning more about who are we as human beings, what is our connection with source and with God. Then I started learning about other religions and other belief systems other than Christianity. I started learning about occult stuff as well, the dark and the light part of it. I started learning a lot of things. Okay, but I'm not Christian. I wouldn't call myself Christian, but I come from a Christian background. Right? I would call myself maybe spiritual. Yeah. Uh, while aren't you replying? Also reply. Sorry, I'm replying late because I was busy talking first. I didn't get a chance to actually answer, but I hope you are now listening to my answers. My apologies, Viripa. I was paying attention to what I'm talking about. Let's see. I think I've done it. I've answered the questions now. Okay. Let me continue. Now, the fallen angels, as I said, in Christian belief, angels are all created as good by God, right? Some were rebellious. They rebelled against God and they were kicked out of heaven. Those who followed Satan, because apparently Satan is the opponent of God. So if you are opposing God, then you must be following Satan, according to the narrative, right? Then those who followed Satan became fallen angels and demons. Now, the other week, last week, I spoke about demons. Demons are a very interesting concept, okay? Now, there's two types of demons. There's the old demons from the so-called fallen angels, according to the story, okay? And then there are demons that we actually create. Since everything is energy, right? If everything is energy, your words are energy, you are energy, you are electrical being, okay? You are energetic, okay? Demons are also energetic, angels are also energetic, God is also energetic, right? All these things, everything's just energy, right? So humans create demons by their low frequency thoughts and their words and their low frequency actions. Your focus is what creates a demon, okay? Your state of mind is what creates a demon, because a demon is just energy, a thought form. And I went on, I spoke about thought forms and how thought forms can grow because they fed, right? So these thought forms are growing and they fed. Now remember, there's thought forms of goodness and light and love, and there's thought forms of the opposite. Now remember, whatever you create in this reality, there has to be an opposite, because this is a place of duality. Okay, like male and female, you have a baby, you have a girl, you have a boy or a boy, you understand? That kind of thing. Sometimes you have both a boy and a girl as twins. There has to be the opposite of everything. So even in terms of energy, so the demon or demonic energies that we are creating start up as thought forms and then become entities. Right, you keep on feeding them and give them more power, and you keep on focusing on something. Like I spoke about, what is the egregore? You understand? The egregore is a thought form that's given a lot of power and energy by human beings. Our focus, our dedication. We speak about this thing all the time. We do rituals about it every time. Like, for example, Jesus. Jesus was a being, a person that lived and walked this land. Now, a thought form apparently, or egregore, can be of a human being that really or existed, or it can be of something, a concept that never really exists, like Satan. Satan is not a being or a person or something that really physically existed, but it is a thought form. You understand? So that thought form now gets its own life, and we all fear Satan. When we all speak about going to hell and meeting Satan, even our dreams, we sing the Satan character, because now we're adding more power and more energy to the store form called Satan. But now the Christians believe that Satan is a supernatural being, a real being. However, in their Bible, they don't say it's a real being. You understand? It's any person or anything that walks against or talks against God, who's an opponent to God, the God of the Bible. Then we have the devil or Satan, the opponent, the adversary or adversary, somebody that's against God. Okay, now let's continue. Very interesting concepts. This world is full of a lot of concepts that we don't even understand, but they're very, very interesting. You get to understand in life when people says, what is a demon? Understand what is the demon, okay? Understand that where it's coming from as well. Satan, what is Satan? Understand where it's coming from. Now, in these Arabic religions, we have the devil. Okay, we have Satan or the devil's one and the same thing. Some people call it Satan, some people call it the devil. Now, the adversary, opponents of God. So they call it in Arabic language, in Islam, something different. It's quite interesting to understand. So they have a devil, and they have heaven, and they have hell. Same as Christianity, they have a devil, they have heaven, and they have hell. Okay, let's go back to what I was talking about, the fallen angels. Passages often associated with this idea include the book of Revelations, book of Revelations. Even Christians are afraid to read it. I think I read it later on in my life when I was in the church. I dabbled and I read. I wanted to understand more about this book called the Book of Revelations. Okay, the hardest books to read is the Book of Revelation and also the older books in the Old Testament, right? Like what I said, the book of Ezekiel, Isaiah, and others as well. They're kind of difficult to read. But anyway, let me continue. So the passages often associated with the idea, including parts of the book of Revelation, is about Satan, right? The adversary of God, the opponent, the accuser, as they call it. They don't say it's a real person. They say anything or any person in my concept, because it's like not like Jesus was a specific being, a person, Yeshua. We know in history is proven that there was this person called Yeshua, now known as Jesus. You understand? Because the Arabic language and the Hebrew language, you may call it the Hebrew language, and the Latin language is two different languages. The Greeks spoke a different language to the Hebrews at the time. And then remember, the Christianity is created by the Roman Empire, which is speaking Latin at that time. So they're not speaking Hebrew. So in the Hebrew alphabet is different to the Latin alphabet. So the whole name then was changed. His name was changed from Yeshua to Jesus because of the J, I think. Yeah, but anyway, let me continue. Yeah, so there's a lot of stories that are about her, because I can hear the Glessive asking about the story, right? I can hear people saying that there's more to it, there's much more to it, but I'm not going to go into all that now, right? Because there is some assumptions that no, there was some Roman person or Roman king that was named, that his name was named Jesus, was taken from that his son or something's name was Jesus and whatever. But anyway, let me continue. There was a lot of nuances in this whole experience or narrative about how Yeshua, in the first century, became the Jesus in the fourth century, when religion, Christianity was actually coined a religion. So before you get a religion, you get a group of people and they say you're in a cult. Okay, and when that practice of that cult group is actually made a accepted and then made a religion. That's what they did. That's what the Roman Empire did, right? They took the concepts of all the teachings of Yeshua and they made it a religion in the fourth century, long after he passed, long after the whole experience of the blood covenant thing where he was killed on the cross. Now remember, killing on the cross was something that was done at the time to criminals, especially people that went against the government at the time, which was the Roman Empire. Any person that went against the Roman Empire, you were crucified. So that's why Jesus was crucified, because he went against the Roman Empire. They saw his teachings and his movements as a threat to their control of the empire at the time. And the so-called Hebrew people, the Jewish people, were actually part of that empire at that time. You understand? So the world was different then, much, much, much different than it is now. Very much different. The land masses were different. There was different belief systems and everything. Okay, half the world, or majority of the world at the time, were all pagans, including the Romans and the Greeks. They were all pagans. When you are pagan, you don't have a religion, right? However, you have a spiritual practice. Like pagans normally practice their earth-based practices, right? They have like a sun god, like Ra. The Egyptians were totally pagan, sun god and stuff like that, right? Different gods and whatever, okay? So they believed in that, like god of Mitra, and yeah, there's a lot of them, okay? So let me continue. So when they coined Christianity, Christianity as a religion. They took these belief systems of the pagans and they married it with Yeshua's teachings and what his followers were actually living by at that time, because they were then called a cult. They were not called a religion. It was just a movement of these people just doing things, together, with not really being confirmed as a religion. It was just their belief and their practice that they came together, and they were seen as a threat by the Roman Empire. So that's how Jesus was crucified. And a lot of people said it was the Jews who actually crucified Jesus, and that's not true, because the Jews had no power to do such thing. Only the Romans had power to actually crucify so-called criminals. So there was a short hearing, and then the people are given opportunity to say what should be done with this person. And then according to the story, they said, crucify him, crucify him. And then that's how you crucify, because he was seen as a rebellion, or creating a rebellion against the Roman Empire. Simple as that, sweetie pies. You see, so when you learn about the history and at the time and not what really happened, then it takes away that whole drama about, oh my God, it's the devil fighting against God. Yes, good and evil is always a battle between good and evil. But at the end of the day, the very same people that say that they are good can be used to do the evil things. And that's how it is. Because man's heart, as I say in the Christian Bible, is full of wickedness. Because we follow our egos and we put our own needs first, and we don't want to help our brothers. That type of thing. The ego is about me, what I can have, me, what I'm entitled for, how I feel entitled about what I want in life. Now, no matter whatever religion you're following, if you're still operating from your ego, you're not able to actually do the things that your religion is telling you to do. You understand? Like Christianity tells you to love your brother as you love yourself, but you have your ego, and you're not flawed because you have your ego. Your ego is a sense of self. Psychologically, your ego helps you to operate in reality, because you have I. You are taught about the I from the time you were born. You were small. The first 7 years of your life, you're indoctrinated about the I, because you were taught there's you, there's I, and there's us. There's him and there's her. Everybody has different needs. Everybody has a voice. Everybody's different. There's separation. So the I is based on separation, and it's neither bad or good. Now, in my channel, I don't demonize anything. I just get my followers to understand. Don't demonize anything. Try and see as it is, for what it is, and don't label it as good or bad. It's just the human condition. In this reality, you'll find the light and you find the darkness. So if you are pushing against everything and saying it's bad, it tends to increase fear and instability in your heart, in your mind, in your life. And now you're living a fearful life. And now you're controlled by these things outside of you, and the power you have is within you. Everything else outside of you is not as important as you are important to yourself. You understand? You are very important. Your mental health is important. Your physical health is important. Your happiness is important. If you allowing things like religions created by men like you, to control you and make your life miserable, then it becomes a problem. You have to have self-sovereignty, because if the religion is controlling you, politics is going to control you totally, because politics and religion are all parts of the game of life, are all parts of this reality created by man with his ego, not out of love. These things are not created out of love. Religion, probably there are people who think it's created by love, but it's not. It's created by man's ego. They keep on changing. They made God in their own image, number one. They gave God in the Bible, they gave Yahweh, as they call it, they gave Yahweh a character of jealousy, right? And don't follow any God but me, okay? That kind of jealousy, and this God is very wrathful and angry and will punish you. That's all human qualities. That's your ego. You understand? Based on ego. So if you want to punish somebody and you say that you don't follow any God but me, that kind of thing, that's also egotistical as well. It's human, very, very human. You understand? And in most of our ideologies, divine source is not human. It's way above human. It cannot be jealous of anything. Divine source has no favorites. There's no special kept people that are going to go to heaven or chosen people. Divine source that creates everything is all about love. There's no wars because there's no ego. It's not operating from human consciousness. You understand? So divine source has no preference. Love is love. And love lets everything be, okay? Live and let live. In other words, we should be living in a world of peace, but we make or we allow the ego to intervene in everything that we are doing. We're creating all these things, these concepts about politics, religion, and all those things, and all ego-based type of things. I tell you why the ego-based, because how can something not be ego-based when you're telling the people that following this thing that we are special people. We are the special people of God. Only we're going to go to heaven, right? So go and converse other people. Be fishers of men. Sweetie Pies, if you learn about the cult called the Children of God, now called the what's it called? The World International or something like that, right? Their concept was to get people, more people into their group or their movement, and they were actually using sexuality and stuff like that to get people, more people to come in. You understand? So it's kind of interesting how humans can warp and make something so divine, something so sacred, make it so dirty and pathetic. You understand? If you listen to the story of that cult called the Children of God, right? It shows you how human beings can lose the plot, totally lose the plot, and only focus on one thing, getting your way no matter what, and using the most divine expression, right? That intimacy between a man and his wife to make a child. Like this cult was even going as far as sleeping with children. You know what I mean? Like they believe that sex was an expression of love. Sex is a physical thing that we do. It can be expression of love to a point whereby it's just you and your partner, and you with this person that you love, and then your greatest baby, and that's love. But now when you start making it like so dark, you know what I mean? Molesting children, raping children, incest, and all those things. Father sleeping with his children and all those things, and you say that's expression of love. You see, they just lost the plot totally, you know, and their followers later on in their lives also get to understand that this thing is wrong. Some people left the church. Even the son of the owner was David and his wife, right? I forgot his surname, David Berg, yes. Apparently his son did kill the nanny that was also molesting him, because molesting or any sexual thing was said to be an expression of love. So a child could be molested and they say, I'm only expressing love to their child. You know, so yeah, I see some sick things going on in this world because of people's belief, your ideologies, and you don't question them. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, does this thing make sense? Does it make sense? Now, as I said yesterday, in a cults, they actually isolate you from your family. So they get you as a member and isolate you by telling you that no, our belief is divine. And if any person that opposes our belief, that's questioning what we're doing here in this group, they will now be our enemies. You know, they don't understand that because we are the special people, we are the chosen people. You understand? So if you look at religions, some religions like groups act like they cults because the people don't have the autonomy to question their leaders. They don't have, because they're afraid of getting discommunicated, of losing their membership and stuff like that. Some people are afraid of, if I go against my pastor, God is going to punish me and stuff. So these are the things as human beings we are very, very sensitive and also vulnerable, depending on your own belief system, right? Depending on your own belief system. So I say that, is Satan an egregore? That depends on the framework you use, okay? Now, the Christian answer is no. I, as not a Christian, I believe that Satan is an egregore. Because Satan is not a human being. Satan is not a being that existed, but it's a thought form that we've created as human beings. The devil is a thought form. A thought form of fear, a thought form of anything against God and light, a thought form of hate, a thought form of shame, a thought form of separation. And I can go on all the negative things. it creates this whole Satan thought form. Okay, so you the adversary, you're against God, because nobody can say, okay, there was a being Satan, and this being did exist. It's a thought form. It's just an ideology that got became an egregore, which is a thought form that's strongly supported by human consciousness. It's strongly supported by human consciousness. Something that's strongly supported by human consciousness. So your belief system, everything that you believe in that doesn't have a physical face, becomes like an egregore with a thought form. Okay, which is quite interesting. So it's nice to go in and do your research and what is an egregore. It spells Egregore, egregore, and thought forms, right? There's two parts. There's a lot of other concepts around this whole thing. This is all very esoteric, spiritual type of stuff, okay? Let me continue. So Christians don't say that Satan is a thought form. They say Satan is a supernatural being who resides in hell. What does hell looks like? They say it's fire and brimstone, suffering and pain and all those things with this devil character, this devil character is carrying a pitchfork. Occults and esoteric answers. Some occultists and modern esoteric thinkers propose that Satan may be, for example, an egregore, a collective thought form created by human belief, an archetypal energy presenting rebellion, shadow, and individualism, ego, a symbolic force rather than a literal entity. Okay, so I fall in that belief. I believe in that. I believe that Satan is an egregore, a collective thought form created by human belief, right? An archetypal representation of rebellion, shadow, and individualism. A symbolic force rather than a literal entity. It's not an entity or a supernatural being. It is a symbolic form, an archetypal type of thing that's representing rebellion, shadow, or individualism. All right. So it's everything that's opposite to God. God is light and love and unity and oneness and all his good things. And then Satan represents another, the opposite of everything, which is God, basically. The separation, the pain, the suffering, you know what I mean, the individualism, the competition in life, scarcity, things like that, right? Now, let's say you sell yourself, your soul to the devil, but the devil represents scarcity. You're selling your soul to the devil to get money and wealth, but the devil represents scarcity. There's not enough. There's always struggle and competition. Sometimes you try and figure out, like, what is going on? Why would you sell yourself to the devil who has nothing? Why can't you sell yourself to God that can give you everything? It's kind of silly, isn't it? But anyway, it is what it is. So we have people saying, "Oh no, I sold myself sold to the devil to be wealthy, or all the wealth and the riches in life. However, I am frustrated. I don't like life. I'm depressed and all those things. Although I have everything physical." If you sell your soul to God and give your soul to God instead, in other words, you turn your face towards the light and live in the light. You understand? However, there's something that really messes me up is, why do they always make poverty linked to Christianity in the belief of God? Why? So they say, like, as poor as a church mouse. So why do we do that? You see, so you really ask this type of questions, and human beings are very strange in that way, right? So if you follow God and go to church or whatever you believe in, follow a religion and live a relatively good life, are you going to be poor? Not necessarily. So where's that whole concept of coming from? It says as poor as a church mouse. Why? Where is it coming from? Again, it's another study into that whole history of that term, basically, right? Because something about the church at the beginning, okay, the church at the beginning and the members, people were paying taxes, too much taxes. So people were paying so much taxes, they became povertized. their land taxes, physical taxes. Some have to give their animals some of their crops and stuff like that. So they became very povertized because they're giving the church. Because I mean, tithes is coming from taxes. Tithes concept is coming from Texas, and it's not really a biblical thing. It's something that the church was following for many years, but it's not really something that even Creflo Dollar spoke about it and says that he's sorry that he misled people for many years, convincing them and forcing them to pay tithes and stuff like that, right? That's just another thing that's came to mind as well. So all these things you need to question. Okay, so back to egregore. Is Satan a real being? To you, what do you think Satan is? Because everybody has their own opinions, right? Is it in the cards? Blue Bible studies. Okay. Are you guys talking amongst each other? Because I don't see a question. Anyway, if you have not as yet, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'm Sissy and life coach and motivational speaker. My topics are based on spirituality, self-awareness, self-development, and the human condition. Remember, we are spirits having a human experience. Everything here is about being human. All right, because in heaven or on other side of things, the beings are not having the same experience we're having here, basically. This is a very physical experience because we have human bodies. Here we have duality, we have good or bad. Here we have things like poverty and riches and wealth. But on the other end, there's no such thing, you understand? So yeah, we're here for a certain reason. And the human condition is very, very interesting because we are controlled by things like ego, our mind, our psychology and stuff like that. Very interesting being a human because there's a lot of things that are going on the back end and also on the front end as well. And there's massive control of the people here, right? People are controlled by politics, by medicine, by it's big money in medicine. So you're controlled by medicine. You are convinced to go to a doctor if you're not feeling well. Instead of you saying, okay, natural remedies, maybe I can use a herb, maybe I can pray, maybe I need to change your lifestyle. Instead, you go to a doctor. A doctor makes you pay money, and then you go to the pharmacy. That's another money pool as well. So they're constantly taking energy from you, basically, right now. Is that all not evil? Is that all not evil? Is manipulating people and gaslighting people not evil? So human beings are also, most of us are far from light and love and from God and the so-called, including our politicians who are bombing countries and stuff like that, and not helping the people that they voted them in. So this whole concept of Satan, for me, it's a egregore, it's a thought form. Okay, it's not a real being, but there are people that behave like Satan, that are full of darkness and stuff like that. And then they want to scream about going to hell. When right here in this earth, we are experiencing a level of hell here with all the killing, all the gaslighting, all the sexual abuse of children and stuff like that. This is like a mini hell on its own, because there are bad things happening here to good people, right? Bad things happening on this earth, right? Because there's duality here, there's both light and darkness here. But then we taught in our religions that now, when you die, you'll only go to heaven or you'll go to hell. Not understanding your heaven, your hell can be right here. You can be in heaven here, and you can be in hell right here. You understand? Depending on your focus and your worldview, depending on your practices and your beliefs and stuff like that. You can be in hell here or you can be in heaven here. Or sometimes you can be in hell when you're depressed. You get out of the depression, you're feeling down, and you find your light again, and you're happy and you're joyful and you appreciative and you're enjoying life. And even if there's problems and stuff like that, you understand. So we have a lot of nuances in this reality, different differences, things we don't truly understand. So religions can actually brainwash you to believe that truly there's only hell after here, or it's only heaven after here. It can gaslight you and really convince you that it's true when it's not true, because everything is energy, and energy is constantly moving, and you are also energy. And there's light energy and there's dark energy. There's energy of love, there's energy of the opposite of love. hate and separation and all the other things, jealousy and everything else, okay? Because in this place here, in this earth where we are now, in this rhyme, right? It's a rhyme of duality, so everything is felt here. Right. So now they get you afraid all your life of dying because you never live a good life. Apparently, you made some choices, you made mistakes and stuff like that, and now you're afraid you're going to go to hell because of your teachings of your religion. It's supposed to make your life better. It's made your life worse because you believe that you're not good enough person. You condemned yourself. You hated your person. You judged yourself, and you hated yourself as a person, and then you're afraid to go to pause because you're afraid you're gonna go to hell. See, it's kind of funny. A lot of gaslighting in this reality, but you have to find out the truth on your own. Okay. Now in psychology, we have the yoga or Jung. You know, Jung is a Jungian pronunciation. Jungian psychology. Carl, so Carl, what's his name? Is psychologist. Carl Jung, a psychologist, right? He was actually a psychiatrist, apparently. He interpreted Satan as an archetypal type of shadow. Now, Carl Jung is known for the shadow, right? The rejection of unconscious aspects of the human psyche rather than the literal devil. That's how he sees Satan, right? Carl Jung theory. And I can understand what he's saying because everything is mind and this is a mind game, right? So if you are having a lot of shadows within yourself, as I said, you suppress parts of yourself that you don't like and you deem them to be demonic, right? That's also a representation of that archetypal energy, which we call Satan, right? If Satan were an egregore, a door form, how would he be born? You understand? Because Satan cannot be born if he's a thought form. It's an ideology. It was not a thing. So it's all about esoteric theories or egregore is created when minds focus on the same image, idea, the symbol, and the same entity, and have collective amounts of energy pushed towards the idea. Like, for example, Jesus was Yeshua, but now Jesus, the concept of Jesus is now egregore because every single person is talking about Jesus, praising Jesus, singing to Jesus. The word in the Bible, no Christians are speaking about this Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. It's now a thought form. It's an egregore coming from a person who walked, Yeshua walked the land, this life, this world in the first century. And now he's gone, but people still talk about keeping it alive, keeping the concepts and the belief of Yeshua or Jesus alive. Same as any person, like even a politician. Like, for example, Nelson Mandela. When people speak of Nelson Mandela, the thought form now, it's an egregore. It's not like that person did walk the land before, but now people still push positive energy towards the concept of Nelson Mandela and all the things he did because he represents goodness. He represents democracy. He represents struggle between oppression and freedom, things like that. That then becomes like a thought form. So anything where there's human focus can become a thought form and then finally an egregore because it is a thought form. And more you feed it, we do rituals. We have Christmas. We have his birth celebration for Jesus, okay? It's a thought form. His birthday celebration. Then his death celebration, basically, the whole Easter thing and all those things. You understand? Now we do that all the time for hundreds of years and years. Then we keep that whole concept alive. That's how you keep your culture. So now in Christianity, Jesus is a big part of the Christian culture as well. Because it's Christmas and his birth and his death that we all are celebrating every year, every single year. No human has said, no, stop. Maybe this year we should do something different. People don't do that. They're just continuously doing the same thing and even ask yourself, okay, what's the purpose of this whole thing? To keep the ideology alive, to keep it valid forever. Right now, egregore, to keep it valid, even symbolism, the cross is the symbolism of Jesus. You are not even have something concrete. And I'm wearing my chain. I'm protected by Jesus. As you can say, yeah, I've got a chain with a cross on it. And yet the cross is even older than Jesus. The cross came long before Jesus, apparently, okay? Still need to go do deeper research on that concept. But I said the cross is not owned by Christianity. It was used in other philosophies and ideologies. It was not owned by Christianity, apparently, because remember that uh, the Romans and the Greeks were crucifying people that went against their rule and their control. They crucify you. People that were rebellious and rebelling against the governments at that time, the Roman and Greek governments at the time, they crucified them. So in other words, that cross thing is an old symbolism, right? The cross is a very old symbolism. And then Christians say that it only belongs to the symbolism of Christ's sacrifice, the blood covenants, apparently, right? Because with this blood, you are healed as a blood covenant, basically, okay? So interesting, isn't it? In the esoteric theories, the egregore is created when many minds focus on the same image, cross, and the idea of Christ and the symbolism, yes, as I mentioned, and the entity itself. Okay, collective, huge amounts of energy pushed towards the idea or symbol. Right, under the model, humans develop stories about spiritual adversary. Right, spiritual adversary must have a villain in your story. God is your hero and your savior. Jesus is your hero and savior, and the devil and the demons are the adversary, the opposite, your enemy, the villain. Millions of people invest emotions, belief, fear, and attention into the figure. Over centuries, powerful collective thought forms emerges. 2,000 years ago, this person walked the land, or even more than 2,000 years now, right? And now we still think and speak about Yeshua. We call him Jesus, the thought form, the egregore. We feed it every year with different rituals to never get humanity to forget. Okay? And each religion or philosophy, ideology does the same thing. The Hindus do it. They celebrate different festivals to celebrate their gods and stuff like that, you understand? So it's what humans do. We create thought forms. We create egregores by our focus, our devotion, our belief, our emotion, because people are very, very emotional about what they believe. And we create these thought forms that keep us focused and keep these entities or people that lived in the past or beings that lived in the past alive today. And I even thought about even like an ancestor. When you acknowledge or venerate your ancestors, you're keeping them alive within your own consciousness. You're connecting with them from the past. Now, this is neither a bad or a good thing. We do the same thing in religions as well. Was Yeshua or Jesus died in the first century and you pray to Jesus, you're keeping that alive. You're connecting yourself to Jesus. You're keeping that alive, okay? Same with ancestry veneration. Same as deity, when you venerate a specific deity or you maybe even worship a certain deity, you're keeping that thing, that ideology, making it alive and true to you in your life at this time. That's how it works, okay? So human beings have the power to create and also to kill, right? We have the power to keep something alive by our focus and our devotion to that thing. We have the power to kill that thing by physically killing it, or we just ignore it and don't talk about it anymore and don't feed it energy. Then we kill it, okay? So there's a physical way of killing, and there's also a energetic way, which is lack of focus, lack of acknowledgement. You just let it go. You understand that kind of interesting, very, very interesting. So spirituality is very in-depth, guys. Very, very in-depth. And it's more than just reading your spiritual books from like your Bible or your Torah or even your Quran. There's much more to it. There's a lot of other books that were not included in the Christian Bible, like the book of Enoch, book of Moses, even the Mary Magdalene. In this other books that pops up, right, between the time religion became a religion in Christianity became a religion in the 4th century, sorry. And there's other things that were found, hidden texts and books and stuff like that were not included in there. And as time went by, they decided not to include it. The Vatican, the Roman Empire decided not to actually include it. The Roman Empire is very much alive today. People say there's not Roman Empire. There is the Vatican. The Vatican's a whole city in Rome, and it's a autonomous city. It rules and controls your belief as a Christian. They change it. They the people that, or the beings that have been changing the teachings in the Bible from the 4th century when it became a religion. So they keep looking and changing things. They decide what you in your home believe. They decide, not God. They decide. A group of people, including the Pope and the whole congregation, I may call it, the whole group of them. You know what I'm trying to say? They decide what you're going to believe, what you're going to keep on believing, what you're going to practice. And then you say it's from God. It's not from God. It's from human beings who decided to make Christianity a religion, who decided to make Islam a religion. It's all human beings, not God. Human beings with egos, huge egos, that have their own intention and their own narrative they want to push. What is your narrative that you want to believe and push? Why do you need somebody else to push a narrative towards you? Because you're a follower. That's how people end up getting caught up in cults, because if they want to be followers and not be leaders of their own life experience. Don't question anything because you're afraid of not being part of the group. You're afraid of losing friendship. You're afraid of you losing connection and brotherhood, that you may call it, because people are seeking brotherhood from people that don't even care about you. That's what happened when I spoke about the cult groups yesterday. It's people seeking belonging, people seeking brotherhood, people seeking healing sometimes, and they get connected to the wrong group of people in the name of seeking healing and belonging. Your connection's inside and you're going outside. You're not going in, you're going out. God is within you, peace is within you, love is within you, not in groups. Groups like in churches, people gather, they're all broken, they're seeking some light and love from God, right? But if they can go within themselves and commune with the God within them, maybe they'll get some more traction, more better results. That's just my opinion, guys. Remember, it's just my opinion. What I'm saying here is neither right or wrong. It's just an opinion of the human condition. You decide how you want to live and what you're going to believe in. Are you going to be a follower, or are you going to be somebody who's willing to get information and decide for yourself what's true to you at this time? Maybe when you were small, you're under your parents, you had no control, but now you're an adult. So it's up to you now to control your life and take control of your life. Don't just follow every person, follow without questioning. What is this whole World Cup soccer about? Again, another ritual. World Cup, what is it all about? Gathering people together for what? You understand that kind of thing? What is competition? Why there has to be a winner and a loser? No, it's entertainment, Sisian. There's more to it than just entertainment, but because you are used of bread and circus, you are used of being taken away from yourself to focus on something outside of you. These people use humans' energy to create what they want, the collective energy to create what they want. These people playing soccer, most of them are millionaires and billionaires. They get paid so much more than an ordinary person. Has any person questioned that? Why should a soccer player earn 50 times more than a person who's a teacher, a devoted teacher, somebody who's giving and imparting to the community, and some soccer player who's taking all that millions to just make himself rich, buying yachts and luxury sports cars and all those things? Are you watching all your life? You put your life on hold for a whole 2 months watching these guys, 24 people eating a ball, 24 millionaires and billionaires, because these guys have money. They earn huge money because they are sports people. They're being used by the institution to drive an agenda, to keep your focus away from your life and onto that bread and circus. It was in the big stadiums, in the time of the Romans, that they used this bread and circus thing, and now they use it even in the modern world as well. People are so invested in things that don't really add any value to their own life experience. What value does that World Cup give you? Number one is teaching that life is really all about competition. It's teaching you that there's winners and there's losers. It teaches you that there's separatism. Each country is stronger. One is stronger, one is weaker. That's what it's teaching you. It's taking away from oneness and unity, basically. Right? I think it's what they call it, being patriotic. Be patriotic to your country. Being patriotic, much can be said about being patriotic because there's wars and murders and atrocities against human beings because of that word being patriotic. America has caused a lot of harm in the world because of being patriotic. I'm a soldier, I'm following my government who's sending me to Afghanistan to kill people or Iran to kill people because I'm patriotic. I really need to support my country. I'm patriotic. That word is very dangerous. You got to actually understand this reality. This matrix is full of dangers, things that really are used to control the masses. War is not good. And being patriotic, you have to go kill some stranger in another land because that stranger's people want to have their own authority and want to have their own rule. But now another government wants to come and take the resources by force. And now you're being patriotic. A lot of the people that in these wars, the soldiers, they at the end of the day, they very much regret being part of the whole drama, the plundering and the killing of other people. What happens? You just sit down on the table. Down on the table. We have World War One. We had World War Two. Human beings supposed to be getting better in terms of their consciousness instead of it being expanding, it's restricting. And now we had this many dramas and played out wars against Iran and America because America thought they were superpower. Not understanding Iran also has their own power because of Israel. Israel is the catalyst of the whole drama. Israel is controlling America. America's doing the bidding for Israel. Nonsense. When people just wanting, Israel wants power. Israel has no resources. None at all, no resources. The only thing that Israel has is a powerful ally, which is America. Israel goes around causing problems, killing the Palestinians and everything. That was the war that played out a few years ago, 2 years ago. The Palestinians and the Israels and America supported them. Then South Africa went and my country went and fought against America for killing Palestinians and supporting Israel. A lot of drama. What happened to people just sitting down and deciding? Let's just talk calmly. Isn't it satanic? Satan is alive here. Satan is not waiting in hell for you. Satan's already here. You understand? Satan's already here. Hell is already here when people are plundering other countries. Hell is already here when people in high seats in the world, like in the Epstein files, how many people, important dignitaries, as they call them, important people holding important positions in the world, supposed to help the people. Instead, they're busy, they're involved in hunting humans, eating human flesh, pedophilia, raping of children, all those things. Hell is ready. Yes, Satan is here already. You don't need to die to see Satan. You've already seen the work of Satan. You've already seen Satan in certain people. You understand? Yeah. So the whole idea of religion is to keep you here on this earth and think that you're going to be experiencing hell or heaven when you die. Heaven is either here, it's here as well, and hell, guys. So as I finish off my life, Satan, what is Satan to you? What is good and bad to you? What is demons to you? What is all this concept? Who is God to you, or what is God to you? Okay? What is the light and the darkness? Make sense of the two. Are they expression of the same divine God, or what are they? Ask the questions. When you start asking the questions, your mind just expands and you start getting information even about yourself, your own belief. You can question it. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to question your own belief, right, guys? So as I said before I close my live, thank you for those that commented and joined my live, right? If you have not as yet, consider joining my community and subscribe to my channel. I'm Sisyan, life coach and motivational speaker, and may you be loved today and may you be loved today, okay? Be kind to yourself and kind to others as well. All right. So have a great week further. And remember that each day is important. Each moment of your life is important. Each decision, each thought you have in your life is creating your reality. So you got to be very careful of your thoughts. Don't be afraid. Don't live in paranoia, but understand it. What are my core thoughts? What am I doing My thoughts are creating my reality. Why is my world the way it is? Because of my thoughts. Can I change my thoughts? Yes, I can. You understand? Because you have the power to do so. So have a great week further, and be good to yourself and others, and be kind to them as well, and be kind to yourself. So have a great week further, guys, and see you all in the next live. Bye, guys.